Hello and welcome back to no, that's not correct. We're back with another off the shelf. That's it. That's the one. That's what I've been doing.
Is that our intro?
It's what it had been for like
It's
a
our intro
bunch of
now for
episodes.
sure.
Yeah. So we're back with another off the shelf, another thrilling dive into the world of written media, in the form of Solo Leveling Volume 8. There he is, looking all cool and collected on the cover. We love this for him. We're getting the purple finally. Solo Leveling, Volume 8 should cover, if I'm correct, most of the Ajin Guild arc, and then the first, like, introductory bits of the Double Dungeon arc and the first mentions of the Japan Crisis arc, which technically occurs after the Double Dungeon arc, but the intro to it starts before the Double Dungeon because it appears before he goes into the Double Dungeon. And we know for a fact that Volume 9 is going to have the Double Dungeon. So I'm sure that we're not actually going to get into the Japan Crisis arc until volume 10, based on the way that these chapters go, but it has been introduced. Like, you saw the giant gate open in Tokyo. Or not open, but appear.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You say that so non-confidently that I worry.
Look, I don't know exactly where your arcs begin and end. I can only tell you what I think happens, which could also be something that happens 30 chapters from now. And I'm just giving you something that sounds vaguely like it.
Well, look, we've already done the Jeju Island. We did the ants. He already saw Norma Selner, so the next arc is the Ajin Guild. It's where they create their guild, and they get
Yes.
permission to solo raid dungeons. And then we'll get the double dungeon. And we've kind of we were going over where this ends, and it was there. We saw it. Anyways, so Solo Leveling did. I'm not going to say currently. It did have an anime coming out that was. It's ended, right? Final episode aired.
I believe it's over already, yeah.
Yeah. Was it a 25 or was it a 12?
I could triple check this. Let me do some fact checking here.
Please do, because I've forgot, because I think I'm getting it confused with Freren, because Freren was a full, what, like 24 episode
Yeah,
order?
it Farron's absolutely done now.
Yeah, but Solo Leveling, I think it might have just been 12.
It was 12 in the last episode released on March 31st, 2014.
Okay, and what was it called?
What, the last episode?
Yeah. Like, is there a title or something?
Arise.
Oh, okay. I know exactly where the anime ended then. That's why people were to oh, okay. So I haven't seen the last couple episodes of it. I'm only up to like episode 6. But I've seen people going absolutely feral over the way that the voice actor says arise online. Like, it became a thing in both, I think in both the Japanese and the English. Somehow the voice actors just say arise in the most like thirst-inducing way possible, and it just went everywhere. So just so you know, Nick Nack, in case you don't remember when that first happened, but that means that season 1 ended on the job change arc, where he became the
A
necromancer.
necromancer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is about where I thought it would end. I think when we initially talked about that, I thought that it might end on the Hunters Guild. No, the Red Gate. I thought it was going to end on the Red Gate, which was a little further than it got. So it ended before the Red Gate. And actually that makes sense because the Red Gate would have needed to be like its own like 2 episodes, I think. Just for emphasis. So that's my opinion on it. Um, which means that we pretty much up to us. Yeah. Anyways, but anyway, so that finished airing relatively recently for us. We are neither of us are caught up on it, even though we said we would watch the episodes as they came out. We both got busy with life. Um,
I
as you
haven't
do.
watched since we stopped trying to go weekly on that.
I did watch a few more. I'm up to episode 6. I think we stopped going weekly on episode 3.
Yeah, no, we did not make it far at all.
Yeah. Oh, to be fair,
You were busy.
if it had been any other season, we probably would have been able to keep up much better. It's just last kind of fall, or like the beginning of this year, was not great timing wise for either of us. Like, we were both consistently busy on weekends and just did not always have time to meet up and record something and like watch the episode. Not a bad thing. I'm really enjoying the anime so far. like a lot. But we're here to talk about the manga. I just thought I'd mention the anime, give it a little hype. If you're into Solo Leveling, go check out the anime. If you came here because you watched the anime, check out the manga. It's great. It's also a web novel. You could find the web novel online. Links here. No, not actually. I will not put links. I am too lazy. Also, YouTube doesn't allow you to do that anymore. You can't embed videos, links in videos at certain times.
I
They
know
removed
it's
that feature like a few years ago, and I'm a little disappointed.
sucks. There used to be some pretty cool like music compilation videos where they'd have a picture of it. You just click it on screen and it would take you to that part of the video.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of sucks, but yeah. So obviously, I know all about what happens in this arc, and I don't think that I think the Ajin Guild arc is interesting because it's the one where his sister's school gets attacked,
Hmm.
and it really shows. I think it's a good example of showing that he can't be everywhere at once and people will suffer regardless. Like, he came as fast as he could, but because of circumstances, he couldn't actually get there immediately, and a lot of people died. Um, which shows that he's not kind of the end all be all that can fix and solve everything on his own, which I think was a really good thing to establish like now early on, because that doesn't change. He never becomes the end all be all that can do everything on his own. Which kind of is hypocritical to the title of the I Level Up Alone or Solo Leveling, because he is the only one who can level up, but even with all of his leveling up, it's still not enough to save the world all on his own and save everyone, which I think is great personally. I don't know. Well, how do you feel about it?
So he really pissed me off in this arc.
Why?
The entire guild thing where like he's almost to a comedic level, like, no, the guild's called the Solo Guild. My dude, a guild is an organization of people and you want to call it the Solo Guild. And then he's here like basically rejecting everybody. And I'm just like, please, my guy, surround yourself with an interesting cast of colorful characters, you personalityless blob.
But we have an interesting cast of characters that we've already met.
I feel like we see them once every 30 chapters or so. Well, I haven't even read 30 chapters of the manhwa, but like I feel like we see them, we don't see them enough.
Oh, we've read way more than 30 chapters of the manhwa.
Actually,
No, I know that the
I mean
way,
yeah, I meant
yeah,
the printed one.
the volumes are labeling the chapters weird. The
Yeah,
way that the volumes are labeling them is actually not congruous with either the web novel or the manhwa chapters, because based on the webtoon episodes we're in the 120s, and based on the web novel chapters we're in the 150s.
meanwhile here, if I remember right, we're literally in the 20s.
Yeah, and based if you were to, and some of you in the comments might be like, "Oh, the chapter count's based on arc." No, it's not. We're in arc 15.
I think it's based off an arc split within the volume itself. So like if a new arc starts, a new chapter starts, and the next volume will have another chapter for that same
But we're
arc.
only on the 15th arc total. So it wouldn't be counting up to like 25, because it would be counting a chapter then at every arc split. And there's only been 15 of them so far.
I don't know that because we're only on chapter 23 of this.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is they're grouping chapters together in like a particular way, like within each arc. So I think some of the arcs are being separated into like several chapters that are representative of multiple web novel chapters or multiple webtoon chapters, which is fine, but that means that when you're trying to figure out what the volumes cover, the chapter labeling is not congruent with the webtoon labeling, which is not the
No,
same as the web novel leveling or labeling. So
which is
none of
why
them agree.
that's why Seki and I like had that back and forth at the beginning. Like, I could be correct on where we're at, but I also could be talking about something 30 chapters from now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like obviously I've read the entire series like extensively, so I know what happens in each arc, but I don't know where the chapters split because it just kind of blends together after you've read all of it, obviously. And I read the book when I got it, and then I gave it to Nick Nack, and it's been a few weeks, so it's sometimes hard to remember exactly where a book stops and ends. But it is the creation of the Ajin Guild, and then near the end, the very beginning of those other two arcs that I mentioned at the start. Um, how did you like the sort of reality of like the fact that like a chunk of this school ended up dead because no one thought to check in like a janitor's closet and the portal popped up there.
I mean, it was an interesting event. At the same time, I don't know. I feel like it was it was so quickly resolved that it felt more like an excuse to get his to bring his sister into his care, like to be more involved, which I hope that's the case. But I don't know. It didn't really leave that much of an impact on me. I'm not gonna lie, because it doesn't feel like it left that much of an impact. Like he didn't really seem to linger on it afterward.
To be fair, we didn't. Hello,
I didn't think you were coming today.
I am. I arrived. Did you want to do grocery shopping or anything later? Dang. Okay. um, I will say his sister does come, obviously, stays more of a central character than she has been in the last few arcs. Mm, no, no, I'll just wait. I don't want to talk about how this arc affects him later because I feel like it'll mean more if you actually get to like see it
Mhm.
when you read it. So we'll just cycle back to that. But I think like obviously the event has just happened in this volume. We actually don't see much time after the event. So I think like in the short term, it seems like he's coping remarkably well. And maybe that's that gamer's mind sort of thing. Like man comes so close to death on a regular basis, and he thinks, he doesn't think he's invincible, but he knows that he's quite powerful, and he has all those shadow soldiers kind of working for him, which is, you know, I do think it's interesting that he's like hiring. Was hired himself out to the other guild, as like the one man show. He was like, I'll just take care of the boss, and he was like, actually, let me just got it for you, bro. Because the Knights Guild, the funky thing about the Knights Guild, and it was discussed earlier in volume 2 or 3, and I wouldn't expect you to remember, and I can't remember if they stated explicitly, but of like the five major guilds in Korea, the Knights Guild is technically the only one without an S class team or like S class members. It's all like A and B rank. So they're really powerful, but they're powerful because of numbers and training, not because they have, like the tiger dude who's got himself, or the guy Chahayan's guildmaster who has him and her, like powerful S ranks. So there's a reason why they needed an S rank to help them, and none of the other guilds would have acquiesced without demanding like a much worse profit share.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's to me that was kind of representative of the fact that he really doesn't give a shit. He really doesn't give a shit about guild politics or that sort of thing. He really just wants to do his thing and move on, which is kind of flippant. I don't love that. I feel like he should have a tiny bit more care about the system. Like you would think, having lived in the system for so long, he'd have more attention to it, but maybe because he was at the bottom rung of the system with no actual involvement in anything, he never really cared to learn because he never thought he was going to move up. And now he's like, doesn't know these things, even though he himself has moved up significantly in terms of where people interpret his power to be in this political system. And he just doesn't know, like, he doesn't have a concept of how to weaponize that as easily, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. He's young, And it hasn't been that long since his entire fucking life changed and he died. So, like, I can cut him some slack on some things. Like, dude's going through it.
Is he though?
A little bit. He died in a traumatic and horrible way.
I don't know. I feel like this might be the point, like what they're trying to build towards, but it feels like every chapter he has less and less of a character, and he's less and less interesting to me as a perspective view. Which I've seen that kind of thing done effectively in storytelling before, but I feel like in this case we need more characters around him to contrast that, and I don't feel like we get them consistently enough.
I cry in volume 9. I cry in the knowledge of the next 2 story arcs. But it's fine. I get it. Like, obviously you have not read any further than what I've given you, and so you can't, like, this is what you're seeing. And like I'm seeing something
Yeah.
different, but I'm seeing something different from the perspective of, oh, I've read this entire series. You know? It's that hindsight sort of thing. I mean, I disagree, but I disagree on the principle of hindsight and the collective story rather than right here, because it's very hard for me to kind of think about him just up to this book, because in my head I know about everything after this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, it gets better, but it's just, like, in my head I'm like, well, oh, but that thing that you mentioned is leading up to this other thing, and this other thing that you mentioned is leading up to this other thing, and you'll see when we get there, but obviously you can't see until we do get there. And even then, you may not like it as much as I did. Um, and that's entirely fair. And I need to be accepting of that, no matter how in my soul it hurts me.
Look, if it makes you feel any better, my unwarranted opinions on solo leveling are just as lambasted for me on the familial, and my brother loves solo leveling. So whenever I talk to him about my opinions as I'm reading it, he's like, "What the fuck?"
Good. Good. The brother that helps create the fake campaign, right?
Yeah, same one.
Ah, yes. Yes, good. He has taste in quality literature.
I hard disagree on that, but that's a conversation he and I have had way too late into the night before.
um,
You
but
think
no,
I get heated with you?
I get where you're coming from personality wise, though. I think this arc and this volume are a uniquely bad look at this man having a personality, because he really does not have one other than being generally disagreeable.
Yeah. I don't feel like he was this disagreeable in the early volumes.
I don't think he was. I think in this case it's maybe just like I don't know. I personally, the Ajin Guild arc is not one of my favorites. I in general don't enjoy it very much because it's a little bit dark for me, ironically, considering that this is a dark power leveling fantasy series. It's a little dark for me. Um because I want my power leveling protagonist to save everyone, not some people. Like, I come in here expecting OP saves everything, and he didn't. So it's a little dark for me. I say, laughing in omniscient reader's viewpoint, and the beginning after the end, and the world after the fall.
You know where I'm at right now with like the saves people thing?
Yeah.
For me, like, yeah, it's very obvious a lot of people died, and if I sit down, I'm like, oh wow, that is terrible. But it almost feels like a lot of people died in the same way a Godzilla versus another monster fight. A lot of people died. Like, sure, a lot of people died, but I just watched a cool action scene. I don't give a fuck.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Like I said, the Ajin Guild arc is not one of my favorites, and maybe it's because I really feel like I think I would have liked it more if he had either been more prompt to get there and fix everything, or less prompt in getting there and fixing everything. Like, I
I
feel like I
actually
wanted either more or less death and destruction.
I agree with that. If he was more prompt, we could have had more time spent with that. And if he was less prompt, we could have had more contemplation over the consequences
Of like
getting to
his
that.
not being able to be everywhere at once and save everyone. Because it seems like that's what he kind of is out trying to do, just like, well, no, he's not even. Like, his goal is not necessarily to save everyone from dungeons erupting, but he doesn't want dungeons to erupt, obviously.
What is his goal? I feel like was that established? I'm just forgetting with the volumes. Does he have a hard goal?
No.
Cool.
I say semi-confidently because Sung Jin Woo's goal is to have enough power to protect his family. Regardless of what that means in terms of the scope of power. He wants to be able to protect his family and keep them together. He's like in that aspect with his goals, he's a very down to earth character. He is not acquiring power for the sake of power. He is acquiring power because every time he gets more powerful, he realizes that there are more things that are able to fight him at his current level and thus threaten his family, and therefore he must get even more powerful.
But there must be something stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's sort of a realization that it's futile at a certain point. Like every time he gets stronger, there will always be something stronger. But that has not happened yet. And there's some other stuff going on we'll discuss in the next book and in the book after, I think, pretty heavily. But yeah, I think his goal, as stated, is just to protect his family, whatever that takes. Yeah. Because that's the whole reason that he was going into dungeons, is he wanted to be able to provide for his family, and his mother was in a coma, and his sister needed like money for school and stuff. Like he wasn't going into dungeons for glory or because he thought it was fun. He was doing it for his family. If that makes sense. I mean, I don't know if
Mhm.
that's come across particularly clearly.
No, I can see that. I just like that wasn't a criticism. That was just me being like, does he have a hard goal?
Yeah, I think that's what would qualify as a hard goal for as like a hard goal for his character thus far as stated. We haven't had anything else like stated outright or brought up. There's certainly an element though of not wanting to like endanger other people in this sort of that's why he's so focused on doing everything alone is because he doesn't want like other people being brought in to like be put in danger. Like he's kind of got like a suicidal outlook on this. Like he's going to do it alone because he doesn't want other people to get hurt. And so he doesn't really care if he dies, but he cares if other people die. Which perhaps I would attribute to the fact that he has literally already died in a horrific and traumatic way, um, and probably has a fair amount of PTSD and trauma from that associated with death and dying.
No,
But
I don't feel like getting into a fight right now.
that's never actually stated in the manhwa. That's just my opinion on his character. Like it would make sense to me, like thematically, if like his kind of if his lack of inhibitions when it comes to throwing himself into fights that could kill him, just to get stronger, I would link back to like a PTSD cause, but that like I said, that's my own headcanon. I don't think that's ever been confirmed in story as far as I'm aware. And I read a lot of fan fiction about it too, so
I am fighting back, making a comment that you would disagree with that get us into this. I don't want to say a yelling match because it's not a serious comment,
I mean
but
you
like a,
obviously don't agree.
I mean, I see what they're doing with him.
But do you? Do you really without having read the next book? I'm joking.
It makes
Don't.
sense. I just think, Shiro Emiya did this character arc better.
Not in 2006, he didn't. Not in 2006, he didn't. Maybe in what, 20. Unlimited the Blade Works was what, like 2014, 2015?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe then, but not in 2006.
Ah, but the visual novel came out in 2004.
Yeah, well, get fucked. I guess we'll have that discussion at a later date.
Moron Wars, Sung Jin Woo versus Shiro Emiya.
Who would win in a fight, Sung Jin Woo
Oh,
or
Sung Jin Woo
Goku?
for Sung Jin Woo would win absolutely in a fight against Shiro. I mean, I'm not gonna deny that.
I said Goku.
Oh, no, that's a little
Two
bit.
two characters who are literally famous that their story arc is that they get beat to shit by something, analyze it, and then beat it to shit. Sorry, that's just a funny thought in my head that came up. Like, who would win in a fight? The
Well,
characters with the exact same trope.
I've started feeling like Soul Leveling is One Punch Man played especially straight.
I mean, maybe it is. You never
That's
know.
just where I'm at, though.
I'm not a huge fan of One Punch Man, so I haven't really gotten into it a whole lot, so I could not comment on that. But that is just me. You know I'm not a huge fan of One Punch
No,
Man. Yeah.
no.
Which is ironic considering I love myself a good power leveling fantasy.
You're just salty that he went bald.
I am salty that he went bald. Sung Jin Woo didn't have to go bald.
I don't know. The pain of losing all his hair might do him some good as a character.
I disagree. I disagree strongly.
Maybe he did go bald. Maybe it's a toupee.
Don't put that thought. Don't wish that into existence. Don't do that. But do you have any more thoughts? Actually, I want your thoughts on the start of the Double Dungeon arc and the Japan Crisis arc because you saw the very beginning of both of those. You mentioned it to me, the giant gate turning up in Tokyo and him getting the key back to the Double Dungeon. What is your thoughts on either of those things?
I have almost no thoughts on them. They both barely started on my end. Like, sure, I think he might have had the key since the last volume, I think.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
remember.
he got it. I think he got it in the Demon Castle arc or something, but it didn't tell him what it was for yet.
And then right now he's like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go back. He just hasn't gone back yet. And I only see it in the previews that he does go back in the next volume. When
Yeah,
the gate literally just opens for the Japan invasion arc. I have zero thoughts.
so humongous.
This is not something we have a lot on yet for me to have thoughts on.
I just thought I'd ask because you could have you could have formed perhaps an early opinion about something based on a line. I
I
just
mean, the
thought I'd
gate is
ask.
big. It's a
Yeah,
big gate.
it's a big gate.
But like I shit you not. The very like the last panel is could be called a monstrous in size alone. Like this is the final panel is the gate opening, a giant gate opening.
Yeah.
Like that's all I have to comment on is the giant ass gate.
Okay, I wasn't sure exactly where it ended. If it was just on the gate, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting that he's willing to go back to Cartanon Temple.
I mean, it makes sense. Like that's a storytelling thing. I'm curious to see where that goes. That's about all I can be right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's interesting because I will say, in most of the power leveling fantasies I've read, and maybe it's because of the kind of unique setup of each of them, like to some extent, typically the main character does not ever go back to the place where he originally receives his power, right? He just keeps moving because a lot of the times, like he just keeps moving forward. Like the place that he received his power is like behind him, and he never goes back that way. So this is one of the few that I've read where he's actually returning to the site of his own death and rebirth.
Fair enough, I guess, the power leveling genre itself. And this isn't a criticism. This is just I feel like I see that trope just more in general in terms of heroes' journeys as a whole. So
Yeah,
like you do get that a lot, even if it's not in power leveling fantasy specifically.
I think it's going to be interesting because I do have you reading a bunch of power leveling fantasies over the next year or so. It's going to be interesting because I don't think that a character going back to the site of is present in any of the ones that I'm having you read at all. Like point blank period. It's just not a trope. And it's usually because a lot of them their former life or whatever they just like died in a really unremarkable place like as a result of like losing a fight or something or being betrayed. They didn't die in sort of like this very also a lot of them are like dungeon styles and not like this gate style is slightly different than some of the other dungeon styles where it's like this is a dungeon tower or something and you have to progress through all 99 levels to beat the dungeon or whatever as opposed to So of like it's these random gates just popping up either near people or not near people. Like I think there was like one comment someone like I don't even know if it'll show up in the manhwa because they do take out some stuff from the manga. There was like one comment that was like one time a gate broke in like a wooded like forest area no one knew about, and it like
If a
took
gate opens in
people.
the forest, and it is
Well,
no one.
yeah, like monsters started coming out of it and no one realized until it like attacked a nearby town. And at that point they'd already been like it was mass destruction, you know?
Basically,
Like
what happened with the abandoned
JG.
janitor's closet in the school.
Yeah. Like, and here's the thing. I understand that these gates have only been popping up for like 10 years or so, but if they're popping up with such like sheer randomness, right? Would there, I mean, granted, maybe the janitors at the school are lazy, they don't check this stuff, but would there not be protocol to like sat scan or just make like have protocols for checking places that people don't often go into on a more like a twice weekly basis so that a gate can never break, because it takes a week and we know that. So why is there not a protocol for that? Is like, are the janitors not following that protocol? Is this like a malpractice sort of thing, or is it just that people didn't think a portal would pop up in this place? Like, has there not been an incident like this, like at a school in 10 years? Like, with the complete randomness of these gates, the possibility of this never happening at a school in anywhere in the world in 10 years and then having like stuff put into place because of it is surprising to me. And maybe that's because I'm thinking like on a more logical, like you hear about something bad happening, you create protocols, stuff like that, especially something with this sort of like importance. Like gate breaks seem to be very like there's something that the fucking or the Hunters Association tracks. But so why do they only track like
Why are they only tracking what they can easily find?
yeah,
Because otherwise, like, what's stopping a gate from appearing somewhere like some cave that people don't even know exists
fucking
yet?
the top of Mount Himalaya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like places where people don't go almost ever, if ever.
Yeah.
They're just like potentially monsters just living up there now, ready to kill. Actually, that'd be a sick twist for the series if they did that. But I don't know.
There is another series similar to this that does that. And I was gonna have you read it. It's completed.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it's just like to me, like you've had 10 years of these gates randomly popping up. We've heard about the Kamish gate, right? In America. We heard about that. That was like one of the biggest mass destruction events on the planet, and it happened because nobody noticed that there was a fucking gate for a hot minute.
I feel like you should be able to use like should be able to find like use light sensors to find like this like to track heat patterns or something.
In 10 years you have not done studies into whether or not our landsats or pleiades or like any of our like satellite orbitals can track gate energy in 10 years with all the bands available for remote sensing, being in a remote sensing class currently, none of those can register gate energy.
And you can't tell me there's not like some radioactivity coming out of these gates
Like
because these
some
are
sort of funky energy, you know what I mean?
yeah. But we're
Especially because
questioning
you
with
have
real life logic on a fictional world. This is not real criticism.
hang on, especially because you have devices that can measure mana. You have devices that can measure gates and measure humans with this mana. Obviously, you have figured out how to pick it up. Why are you not applying that on a worldwide scale to finding gates? So why would you ever have not noticed that there's a gate at this high school?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I kind of would file this all away in the same area of like, why do Star Wars spaceships function like World War II battleships?
Yeah. I know I'm being like overly critical of a system that's created for a fantasy world. I get it. I just think it's funny. I think that's about all I've got to say.
Yeah, I haven't got much else to say on solo leveling.
All right, so like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you've watched the anime. Let us know your opinions because I know it's been somewhat divisive among fans. Um, let us know if you know the next arc that Nick Nack's going to be going into blind. And we'll see you next time with another off the shelf.
Bye.
Bye.